Hello students, this video is for class 8 chapter 7 cell structure and functions. So let's start this chapter. So basically this chapter belongs to your biology and it would be done in the bio notebook, and so you can mention on the top of it. So let's start this chapter. So on starting this chapter, as the name itself suggests, that we'll be studying about cell and its components and what are the functions that each and individual components are performing. So as far as the intro is concerned, we all know that cell is basically called as the structural and functional unit of life, right? If you consider the body system of an organism, so the hierarchy goes like a cell. So then we have a group of cells working together for a similar function, those are called as tissues. Then tissues which are working for a common function or serve a common function, they combine together and form an organ. And when various organs work together for a single task, then they are called as the organ system. And the organ system are present then we call that as an organism, right? So basically we can say the entire body is basically splitting wise, we can say they're made up of cells only, right? Now moving on to the next topic is like discovery of cells. It was basically done by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. So what he basically observed was like he made a primitive type of microscope and he observed cork cells, you can say. So basically those were the dead plant cells taken from the bark, and when he saw that, he was able to visualize compartment you can say, or segmentations which were identical to each other and were separated from each other. So he was the first one to coin this term, that is pure cell. Now, after around 150 years, this theory was given that was called as cell theory. And the reason for so much late advancement was that there was no development in the field of microscope. Okay, so this cell theory was given by three scientists who worked together, and they gave multiple number of postulates. The name of them were Schwann, Schildin, and Virchow. So they said that cell is a basic structure and function of all the living organism, and all cells are not identical. Basically they differ in their functions or their structure, you can say, and the new cells basically arise from the pre-existing cells. Now as far as the variation is concerned, variation occurs in multiple contexts, right? So first is like on the basis of number. We all have seen that an organism can be a unicellular organism, where a single cell basically acts as an organism. Means all the life process relating activities, digestion, absorption, excretion occur in a single cell. Example, amoeba, euglena. Then we have multicellular organism like ourselves. We have organ system, multiple organs which are made up of cells and all. Now as far as shape is concerned, then variation might be like, if in our body only we are considering WBC for example are highly irregular. The reason for them is like they have to fight against any foreign body which is getting inside your body. Then nerve cells are quite long. The reason for them to be long is they have to carry the signals from brain to various parts and vice versa. Then if you would have seen in plants, like stomata basically are guarded by kidney shaped guard cells, right? Cause of turgidity, they are able to open and close up. Now moving on, variation in size is concerned, then bacteria can be extremely small. If in terms of bacteria, means the cells can be very small. For example, if you are considering a bacteria and all, and they can be very large. For example, if an ostrich egg is concerned, that also is a single cell. So what important here is to understand that the size of an organism does not depend on the size of the cell. So it is if you have to consider the example of an elephant and an ant, right? It is not like the elephants will be having a bigger cells, right? It is basically because of the number of cells. Now there comes a topic which is quite troublesome for the people to understand in the beginning only. That is your difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So when the life originated on our planet, so all the cells were prokaryotic, that their nucleus was not well defined. But with the continuous evolution and the changes, they led to the development of proper nuclear membrane around the nucleus. So these were called as eukaryotic cells. So basically all the plant and animal cells that are present today, they all are eukaryotic, and prokaryotic can be considered as the bacteria, that is, they don't have a nuclear membrane around their cell wall. Now if you have to consider a structure of cell, certain things are very common. For example, cell membrane is there, cell membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. They are the things which are common irrespective of the plant cell and animal cell. And in this session, or you can say in this year 8th standard, we will be understanding the difference between basically the plant cells and animal cells. So the diagram here that they have given is basically of a typical cell. So it is neither you can say it is an animal cell or nor you can say it is a plant cell. Basically it has all the features of both plant and animal. So first component is your cell membrane. Cell membrane is the outermost covering which basically defines cell, or you can say they make a single cell as a separate entity, right? Also called as plasma membrane, right? Now next is your cell wall. Cell wall is something which is present specifically only in the plant cells, and as we have endoskeleton in human beings for maintaining the shape and structure, so for plants, if they have to maintain this proper rigidness in their body, they are having this cellulose which serves as exoskeleton, right? And is made up of cellulose specific to plant cells only. Now moving on to the nucleus. Nucleus is considered to be the extremely important component of a cell. Reason being, it is an information center, and basically what happens if we check it out in a cell, it would be lying in somewhere in the corner, and what happens again, we will see like it is bounded by a double layered membrane which is called as nuclear membrane, or sometimes referred to as nuclear envelope, and there are minute pores which are present in the nuclear membrane. Those are called as nuclear pores, right? And the nucleus which is present inside the the liquid which is present inside the nucleus is called as nucleoplasm, and it also contains all the genetic and hereditary information which are to be passed from one generation to the next generation. Now cytoplasm is again a jelly-like liquid which is present inside a cell. It is present outside the nuclear membrane and within the cell membrane, right? So between the nuclear membrane and cell membrane, this liquid is there, and in which all the cell organelles are present, right? And you would be surprised to know cytoplasm along with nucleus is something called as protoplasm, and it is defined as the criteria on the basis of which we are calling a particular object as a living or non-living, right? Now comes cell organelles. So something this I'll tell to my students is like if you are considering yourself as a body, right? You have multiple organs which serve different functions. So what happens in cell also, we have different components which perform specific task related functions, right? And those components are called as cell organelles. So first are basically your ribosomes. So ribosomes are important for protein synthesis. They might be lying scattered in your cytoplasm, or they might be attached to your rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then some next one is your endoplasmic reticulum. It is a site actually. Ribosome, as we know, they are responsible for the protein synthesis, but endoplasmic reticulum actually provides the site where actually this proteins would be getting synthesized. Now next one is mitochondria. It is called as a powerhouse of the cell. And the reason for calling that is, like you can understand, whenever we are eating a food, it will get digested, absorbed, and finally it will reach a cell. So the process of extraction of energy from this digested and absorbed food is done within the mitochondria. So that is why they are called as the powerhouse of the cell. Next is Golgi complex. They are responsible for packaging and transferring the food within the cell, right? Means they are, you can say they act as a distribution center. Then we have plastids, which are peculiar to your plant cells only. However, in some exceptions, specific type are found in animal cells also. So they are classified into three categories. Either they might be chloroplast, chromoplast, or leucoplast. So chloroplast, you can say, are something which contain chlorophyll, responsible for the green pigmentation of the plants, and apart from that, being having chlorophyll, they are responsible for trapping the sunlight and also for synthesizing the food. Then chromoplast are the one which contains specific peculiar different type of colored pigments, and responsible again for giving this specific color to your fruits and vegetables. Leucoplasts are something which are responsible for you can say again for storing starch or food, specifically found in potato, or you can say underground fruits or vegetables. And then vacuoles are there, next organelles. They are responsible for storage of food, and they are specific only to plant cells. Either they are completely absent in animal cells, or they are next to zero, right? And then comes the lysosome. So lysosome, again a very specific type of organelle, also called as suicidal bags. So you have to understand, when a cell matures, then what happens, like either it will get divided into new cells, or like when it has completed its life cycle, this cell organelles release certain enzymes which completely digest this cell. Okay, now moving on, we have this topic that is your cell division. So we have to again, there's a proper life cycle that this each like if we are considering ourselves, we follow a proper life cycle. So cell also follow a proper specific life cycle, and when they reach a particular specific maturation phase, they start dividing, right, after getting the proper nutrition and all. So once a cell divides, it will result in the formation of two new cells, and those two new cells are called as daughter cells. And this process of cell division is extremely important for the survival of any living things on earth, right? And the last topic for this chapter is your electron microscope. So we have seen in our school also, and in the various activities we have worked on, checked out, if you remember algae and all, we saw different structures, right?